The V8 engine represents the heart of American automotive performance, but not every V8 deserves celebration. Today, I'm counting down the 10 worst V8 engines ever installed in classic cars. Power plants so fundamentally flawed, they made owners question their life choices. From catastrophic reliability issues to pathetic power output, these engines represent the absolute bottom of V8 development and prove that 8 cylinders don't guarantee quality or performance. 10. 1975 to 1976. Cadillac 500 V8. The Cadillac 500 cubic-inch V8 represents everything wrong with mid-70s emissions, compliance, and corporate priorities that valued meeting regulations over customer satisfaction. This massive engine produced only 190 horsepower despite its enormous displacement, creating one of the worst power-to-size ratios in automotive history. The engine featured primitive emissions controls, including early catalytic converters and exhaust gas recirculation systems that strangled performance while providing questionable reliability. What made the 500 particularly disappointing was how it compared to earlier Cadillac engines that delivered genuine performance. The combination of low compression ratios, restrictive exhaust systems, and crude fuel delivery created an engine that felt sluggish despite its size. Fuel economy was terrible, reliability was questionable with frequent carburetor problems, and the engine's sheer weight compromised handling. The 500 represented Cadillac's decline from performance luxury to mediocre transportation. 9. 1980 to 1982. Ford 255. V8 Ford's 255 cubic-inch V8 was designed as a fuel economy option, but delivered neither adequate power nor acceptable efficiency, making it one of the most pointless engines ever produced. This engine produced only 115 to 122 horsepower, depending on application, making it weaker than many four-cylinder engines, while returning fuel economy barely better than larger V8s. The 255 featured a 2-barrel carburetor, low compression, and restrictive exhaust that strangled any potential performance. What made the 255 particularly terrible was how it disappointed buyers regardless of their priorities. Those seeking fuel economy found the mileage barely improved over larger engines, while those expecting adequate performance discovered the engine couldn't even accelerate safely in traffic. The 255 suffered from reliability problems, including premature camshaft wear and carburetor issues. Most damaging was how this engine represented Ford's inability to create competitive power plants during the crucial early 80s when fuel economy became essential. 8. 1981 to 1990, Cadillac HT4100. The Cadillac HT4100 represents one of the most catastrophic engine failures in automotive history, combining inadequate power with legendary unreliability that destroyed Cadillac's reputation. This 4.1-liter aluminum V8 was designed to provide fuel efficiency in downsized Cadillacs, but suffered from fundamental design flaws that caused premature failure. The engine produced only 135 horsepower, while featuring aluminum block construction that proved inadequate for the application. The HT4100's problems were extensive and expensive. The aluminum block would warp, head gaskets failed prematurely, and the engine would often self-destruct before 100,000 miles. The throttle body fuel injection system was unreliable, and the engine management computer frequently malfunctioned. What made the HT4100 truly terrible was how it affected Cadillac's brand reputation. Buyers who experienced these problems often never purchased another Cadillac. The engine became so notorious that finding a surviving HT4100-powered car today is rare because most were scrapped after engine failure made repair economically impossible. 7. 1977 to 1979, Oldsmobile 350, diesel Oldsmobile's 350 diesel V8 represents one of the most disastrous attempts to adapt gasoline engine architecture for diesel use, creating reliability problems that damaged General Motors' reputation for decades. This engine was essentially a gasoline 350 converted to diesel operation without adequate structural reinforcement or proper fuel system engineering. The result was catastrophic failure rates that made ownership a nightmare. The diesel 350 suffered from numerous fundamental problems, including cracked cylinder heads, failed injection pumps, and catastrophic engine failures that often occurred before 50,000 miles. The engine was poorly suited to diesel's higher compression and combustion pressures, while the fuel injection system was unreliable and expensive to repair. Cold starting was problematic. Performance was anemic with only 120 horsepower, and fuel economy advantages over gasoline engines were minimal. What made this engine particularly damaging was how it poisoned customer perception of diesel technology for generations. Many buyers experienced complete engine failure that GM often refused to cover under warranty, creating lasting resentment and distrust. 6. 1975 to 1980, Chrysler 318, lean burn. The Chrysler 318, equipped with lean burn electronic ignition, represents a well-intentioned attempt at emissions compliance that created reliability nightmares through primitive technology and poor execution. The lean burn system used early electronic control to lean out the fuel mixture for emissions compliance. But the execution was so problematic, it made the reliable 318 engine into a source of constant frustration. The lean burn computer was unreliable and difficult to diagnose when it failed, often leaving vehicles stranded with no warning. The system was sensitive to electrical problems and would frequently malfunction, causing poor performance, hesitation, and complete failure. Mechanics struggled to diagnose lean burn problems because the technology was new and diagnostic tools were primitive. The system's complexity made repairs expensive, while reliability remained questionable. What made lean burn particularly frustrating was how it ruined an otherwise reliable engine. The 318 without lean burn was known for durability, but the electronic system created problems that made ownership unpleasant. Many owners eventually removed the lean burn system entirely and converted to conventional ignition just to achieve reliable operation. 5. 1968 to 1971. Jaguar 5.3 V12. While technically a V12, Jaguar's problematic engine deserves mention for how its American emissions equipment created reliability disasters that destroyed the brand's reputation in the United States market. The fuel-injected V12 was sophisticated, but the primitive emissions controls required for American sale made it unreliable, expensive to maintain, and frustrating to own during an era when Jaguar build quality was already questionable. The American spec V12 suffered from electrical problems, fuel injection failures, and overheating issues that made ownership expensive and frustrating. The complex fuel injection system required specialist knowledge to repair, and parts availability was poor in most American markets. The engine's sophisticated design meant that routine maintenance was expensive and time-consuming, while reliability problems occurred frequently enough to make ownership economically questionable. What made this engine particularly damaging was how it confirmed stereotypes about British car unreliability. American buyers who purchased these vehicles expecting luxury and sophistication instead experienced constant breakdowns and expensive repairs that drove them toward German alternatives offering superior reliability. 4. 1971 to 1974, AMC 360 V8. The AMC 360 represents a competent engine ruined by severe detuning for emissions compliance, creating one of the most disappointing power-to-displacement ratios of the early 70s. This 5.9-liter V8 produced as little as 150 horsepower in later years, making it one of the weakest engines relative to its size. The combination of low compression, restrictive exhaust, and primitive emissions controls strangled any performance potential. What made the detuned 360 particularly bad was how it affected AMC's performance car lineup. The Javelin and AMX lost their performance credibility when equipped with these weak engines, while the larger Ambassador and Matador felt sluggish despite their size. Fuel economy was poor despite the low power output, and reliability suffered from the stress of inadequate power trying to move heavy vehicles. The 360's problems represented AMC's larger struggle during the 70s. While competitors were developing more sophisticated emissions controls, AMC lacked resources for proper engineering. The result was crude solutions that destroyed performance while barely meeting regulations, damaging AMC's reputation during a crucial period when they needed competitive products. 3. 1980 to 1982. Lincoln 302 V8. The Lincoln 302 represents Ford's attempt to install their smallest V8 in full-size luxury cars, creating one of the most inadequate powertrain combinations ever produced. This 5.0-liter engine produced only 129 to 132 horsepower while attempting to move luxury cars weighing over 4,000 pounds. The result was dangerous acceleration that made highway merging genuinely frightening. What made the 302 Lincoln particularly terrible was how it damaged the brand's luxury positioning. Lincoln buyers expected adequate performance and smooth operation, but the underpowered 302 delivered neither. The engine felt constantly stressed, trying to move these heavy vehicles, resulting in poor reliability and premature wear. Fuel economy was mediocre despite the smaller displacement because the engine operated at high loads constantly. The 302 Lincoln represented everything wrong with 80s domestic luxury cars. Rather than properly engineering solutions to fuel economy requirements, Ford simply installed inadequate engines and hoped buyers wouldn't notice. The strategy failed spectacularly as customers fled to European and Japanese luxury brands offering superior performance and refinement. 2. 1975 to 1980. Chevrolet 267 V8. The Chevrolet 267 cubic-inch V8 represents one of the most pointless engines ever created, offering neither performance advantages over smaller engines nor efficiency benefits compared to larger alternatives. This 4.4-liter engine produced only 120 to 125 horsepower, while delivering fuel economy barely better than the 305 V8. The 267 featured a two-barrel carburetor, low compression, and restrictive exhaust that eliminated any performance potential. What made the 267 particularly bad was how it occupied an awkward middle ground that satisfied nobody. The engine was too weak for acceptable performance in mid-size cars, yet offered insufficient fuel economy advantages to justify choosing it over more powerful options. Reliability was mediocre, with frequent carburetor problems and premature wear from operating under constant high load. The 267 represented GM's confused response to fuel economy regulations during a period when proper engineering would have created better solutions. Rather than developing efficient engines, GM created weak power plants that disappointed customers and damaged their reputation. The 267 was quickly discontinued as buyers avoided it in favor of either four-cylinder engines or more powerful V8s. 1. 1977 to 1980 Oldsmobile 260 V8. Taking the top spot is the Oldsmobile 260 cubic-inch V8, perhaps the most disappointing V8 ever produced considering its size and application. This 4.3-liter engine produced only 105 to 110 horsepower, making it weaker than many four-cylinder engines, while returning poor fuel economy and questionable reliability that made ownership frustrating and expensive. The 260 was designed as Oldsmobile's economy V8, but failed at every objective. Performance was dangerously inadequate, particularly when installed in mid-size cars where acceleration became genuinely frightening. The engine felt constantly stressed trying to perform basic transportation duties, resulting in premature wear and frequent mechanical problems. Fuel economy was mediocre despite the weak power output because the engine operated at high loads constantly. What made the 260 truly terrible was how it represented Detroit's worst instincts during the malaise era. Rather than proper engineering solutions, Oldsmobile created a weak engine and hoped marketing could convince buyers it was adequate. The strategy failed as customers avoided the 260, damaging Oldsmobile's reputation during a crucial period when they needed competitive products to survive against import competition. And there you have it, the 10 worst V8 engines ever installed in classic cars. From pathetically weak output to catastrophic reliability, these engines prove that 8 cylinders don't guarantee quality. Each represents compromised engineering and poor decisions that disappointed customers and damaged manufacturer reputations for years. What's the worst V8 you've ever experienced? Drop a comment below and share your disappointing V8 story. Thanks for watching.